Good evening. This is CTV News for September 13th. I'm Denise Douglas.
And I'm Patricia Vallone. Thank you for joining us this evening. Well, Hurricane Florence touches down in the Carolinas with powerful winds and violent surf. The dangerous storm weakened slightly to a Category 2, but doubled in size and is now expected to meander as it pounds coastal communities all the way to Maryland. Locally, the southern end of the Patuxent River sits along the evacuation route on the state's new hurricane map. Patuxent Riverkeeper Fred Tutman says the area is vulnerable to flooding.
So the southern areas of the Patuxent, there are a lot of lowland areas that are kind of integral to the waterway, particularly wetlands areas. You know, some of those areas, for example, are in parks and places like that that are preserved areas. And those areas that are going to get inundated, I mean, those are areas that are kind of fluid. Sometimes they're land, sometimes they're underwater. So those areas are much more vulnerable when you have higher than usual tides, wind, other factors kind of pushing the water. More water generally coming from upstream from flooding. So the whole thing is very dynamic. It's always in flux. And this is very stressful, by the way, for people who live near the water. We get lots of calls from folks who remember Hurricane Agnes. And, you know, when you hear the word hurricane on the Patuxent, there are lots of folks who say, hurricane, we know about that.
And Florence could be the most devastating storm to hit the East Coast since Hurricane Hugo in 1989.
While over 1 million people have been evacuated from their homes in preparation for Hurricane Florence, colleges in the storm's path are also urging students to leave. We talked to county resident Kristen Curry, who left his Coker College dorm in South Carolina. According to Curry, the school sent out emergency alerts for the safety of their students, asking them to leave.
We have like an alert system, like a Cobra alert system, so they're supposed to let us know and stuff as things progress. Because originally they had us coming back today, Wednesday at 1 o'clock, but then they sent it out an earlier one so that we could like miss all the traffic and everything. So I was able to come home on Tuesday instead. So they allowed us to come home a little early. It's supposed to hit South Carolina pretty hard, but they still have some people that's on campus, but for the most part they have them like stay in the Deloach Center, which is the gym that we have there. So I still have most of my stuff still there in my dorm, but I just grabbed a bag and came home.
And like he said, the remaining students on campus are said to be in the gym for their protection.
Meantime, local environmental officials are touting the importance of stormwater management ahead of the storm. Even nuisance rain can do major damage in flood-prone areas. Adam Ortiz, the director of Prince George's Department of the Environment, says there are both short and long-term ways to prepare for flooding.
So there's some basic things people can do to make sure that the ground around their homes is graded away from the house. That's a major cause of basement flooding, and that can happen whether you're at the top of the hill or at the bottom of the hill. And also to make sure that you're working so there's no water pooling as much as possible on your property, and a good landscape contractor can help make sure that your home is draining properly. So if folks do have some chronic flooding in their basement, to make sure dehumidifiers and fans are going. In the event that the power's out for some time, to also be prepared to have provisions and be able to continue life and take care of our families.
And if you have a basement, it's advised that you install a backup battery-powered sump pump in case power is lost during the storm.